Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to all my new subscribers. So today I'm working on a second maple leaf quilt block. I've got a bunch of 3-inch squares left over from the previous project and I want to use it up, so I am placing the pieces here and I'm going to make sure I like the layout and then I'll start sewing. Once I decided I was happy with the placement, I started with the half square triangles. I drew a line diagonally on the lighter fabric and chain stitched them all together. And then I trimmed the HSDs, finger pressed the seams open and placed them on the block. Initially, I wanted to match up the half square triangles to the fabric that was the closest match to it, but some of the prints were upside down and it wasn't aesthetically pleasing, so the block ended up being a lot more scrappy than I planned, but it worked out really well because I really liked it. I played around with the placement of the half square triangles to make sure that I was happy with the placement, and once I was, I started sewing. I also prepared the stem blocks. I basically just cut them in half diagonally. And then I started sewing the blocks together. I started with the easiest ones. I placed the fabric's right sides together and used a 1/4 inch seam allowance and finger pressed as I went. Once the rows were completed, I started sewing them together. I matched up the seams, and because the seam allowance is pressed open, it was easy to match them up. But I did pin all my seams down to make sure that the fabric didn't move around too much on me as I was sewing. And then I started working on the stem blocks. I'm using a 1-inch strip of fabric and I cut a piece that would fit the triangle of the background fabric, and I placed the two fabrics right sides together, stitched it using a 1/4 inch seam allowance and pressed the seams open. And then I placed the second triangle of fabric onto the strip of fabric and I tried to match it up as best as I could to the first triangle. Sewed everything down, used a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and I pressed everything nice and flat so I can square up my blocks. They ended up being so cute. Once the stem blocks were done, I placed them back into the block to make sure that the positioning was good, and then I continued sewing my rows together. I tried my best to match up the seams and to ensure that I didn't lose any of my points on the half square triangles. I kept finger pressing as I went and pinning and sewing, and the end result is so cool. I gave the block one last good press, taking my time to ensure that the seams were pressed open nice and flat. And then I squared it up. This block ended up being so cool. I love it so much.
Okay, so here it is, the finished block. I like it so much, it's so cool. Thanks for checking out my video, guys. See you in the next one.